She walked into my office clutching her stomach, eyes fixed on the floor as if the tiles might swallow her whole. Pale, shadows under her eyes, wearing that delicate Tiro's lace blouse that now hung a size too loose on her frame. I recognized her instantly from the file photo. Anna. First pregnancy. Constant nausea, panic attacks, and the quiet, terrifying conviction that something was wrong with the baby she never planned to have. I asked her to sit. She perched on the very edge of the examination table like she was apologizing for existing. Her fingers twisted the hem of the lace until the threads threatened to tear. "You can tell me anything here," I said softly. "This room is safe." She lifted her gaze, gray-green eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and gave the most heartbreaking half-smile I'd ever seen. "I didn't want this baby," she whispered. "Not even a little. And now I'm terrified of losing her." "That's insane, isn't it?" I didn't answer with words. I stepped closer and wrapped my arms around her shoulders. She stiffened for a second, then melted, pressing her forehead against my collarbone as if she'd been waiting years for permission to fall apart. I felt her trembling slow, then stop. Her breath warmed the skin above my stethoscope. We stayed like that longer than protocol allows. When she finally pulled back, her voice was steadier. "You're the first person who didn't judge me." After that, she came every week. At first only for appointments. Then she started appearing just to say hi. She brought coffee because she noticed I never had time for breakfast. She sat in the chair opposite my desk and talked about realizing at 16 that boys did nothing for her, about her mother who still believed she simply hadn't met the right man, about the ex-boyfriend she lived with for 3 years to convince the world and herself she was normal. The same ex who disappeared for months at a time and now suddenly wanted paternity rights. I listened. Sometimes I tucked an errant strand of hair behind her ear. Sometimes I held her hand while she cried into paper towels because we'd run out of tissues again. The first time I saw her outside the clinic, she was standing under the linden tree in front of my building, clutching 2 paper cups of coffee and looking impossibly small against the autumn rain. I had just finished a 16-hour shift. My hair was escaping its bun in frizzy defeat. My eyes felt like sandpaper. She smiled anyway, as if I were the most beautiful thing she'd seen all day. "I thought you might need this more than sleep," she said, offering the taller cup. Steam curled between us like secret handwriting. I took it. Our fingers brushed. Electricity shot straight to my knees. From then on, the city rearranged itself around her. The bakery on the corner started stocking the almond croissants she loved. The grumpy security guard in the hospital lobby began nodding at her like an old friend. Even the rain seemed to fall softer when she was near, as though the sky itself didn't want to disturb her. She kept the rose lace blouse hung in the front of her closet like a flag. On the days when pregnancy hormones made her feel monstrous, she would stand in front of the mirror and whisper, "Remember the day one. Remember how gently she looked at you." Then she would touch the fabric and breathe until the panic loosened its grip. One afternoon she arrived shaking, mascara streaked down her cheeks. He had called, screamed, threatened court, threatened to force a DNA test the moment the baby was born, threatened to take the child she was only just learning to love. "I won't give her up," she kept repeating, palms pressed protectively over the swell beneath the lace. "I won't." I locked the office door, something I had never done before, walked straight to her, pulled her into me so tightly I could feel both heartbeats, hers and the tiny one inside her, racing in frantic unison. "You are not alone anymore," I said against her hair. "Not ever again." She tilted her face up. Tears clung to her lashes. Her eyes flicked to my mouth and stayed there. The air between us crackled with everything we hadn't said. I waited, giving her every chance to step away. She didn't. She rose on her toes instead, hands sliding up my white coat, and kissed me. It was soft, trembling, tasting of salt and fear, and something sweet finally breaking free. The world didn't end. It began. When we parted, she laughed through the tears. "I've been in love with you since the first time you hugged me. I just didn't know what to do with it." I brushed my thumb across her cheek. "Now you do." The months that followed were a quiet kind of magic. I went with her to every ultrasound, held her hand while she sobbed at the sight of a fluttering heartbeat she'd once prayed would disappear. I slept on her uncomfortable couch when nightmares woke her at 3 a.m. I learned to make the only chicken soup she could keep down. I threatened her ex in the parking lot one rainy evening, calmly, professionally, but with steel beneath the words, until he never showed his face again. I learned the exact pitch of her laugh when she was truly happy, a bright, startled sound, like a match striking, and the lower, private one she saved for when our daughter kicked against my palm at 2 a.m. and we both cried from wonder. I learned that she sings lullabies in a language her grandmother taught her, words she doesn't fully understand but feels in her bones. I learned the way her breathing changes right before she falls asleep. One long exhale, as if she's finally believes the world is safe enough to let go. There were hard days, of course. Days when the baby wouldn't latch and Anna sobbed that she was failing at the one thing her body was supposed to know how to do. Days when old shame crept in and told her she didn't deserve any of this happiness because of who she loved. On those nights, I held her until morning, repeating the only truth that mattered. You are the best mother this little girl could ever have. And you are the love of my life. Nothing, no past, no fear, no ex with cruel words can change that. Then came the night her water broke. I drove through red lights with one hand on the wheel and one hand gripping hers while she screamed that she couldn't do it, that she wasn't strong enough. I told her the truth. She was the strongest woman I'd ever known. She believed me just enough to keep breathing. At dawn, after hours that felt like lifetimes, our daughter arrived, tiny, furious, perfect, with a shock of dark hair exactly like her mother's. They laid her on Anna's chest, and Anna looked up at me with exhausted, radiant eyes. Thank you for not letting me give up. I leaned down, kissed Anna's sweat-damp forehead, then the baby's downy one. You saved me, I whispered. The day you walked in wearing that rose lace blouse and stole my heart without even trying. We brought her home to the little apartment with the big windows overlooking the garden. Mornings are soft now. Anna feeds the baby while I stir oatmeal and hum off-key. Evenings, we rock our daughter to sleep together, then sit at the kitchen table holding hands across the scarred wood, saying nothing because everything important has already been said with touches and glances and years of choosing each other every single day. Some nights Anna slips back into that Tiro's blouse, now fitting perfectly again, and I still lose the ability to speak. Some mornings I wear the white coat just so she can slide it off my shoulders with a wicked, loving smile. Our daughter's first word was not "mama" but light. She said it pointing at the fairy lights Anna had strung above the crib the week we brought her home, tiny fingers reaching toward the glow as if she already understood that love looks exactly like that. Soft, steady illumination in the middle of any darkness. And every single night, no matter how exhausted we are, we stand over her crib together, foreheads touching, breathing in the milky scent of her skin, and I think the same thought I've had since the very first hug. Love, it turns out, begins with a frightened woman in delicate lace walking into your office clutching fears she's never told anyone. And, against all odds, it never ends.